Good evening, everyone. It's Deanna Nichols, doTERRA Blue Diamond. We will get started here in just a couple of minutes. So if you're watching the replay, we like to go live a little bit early just so that we can let Facebook catch up to us. So we're just going to sort of delay just a little bit until Facebook knows that we're live long enough to build an audience for us. So if you're watching the replay, this is a good time to get a drink of water, use the bathroom really quick, and we'll get started here in the next probably 2 minutes or less. All right. When you're signing in and watching this, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, we would love for you to say hello to let us know you're here. It's always fun to see who's watching, get a chance to chat with you. And then, of course, all throughout the event, we welcome your comments, your stories, your tips. The only thing we want to try to avoid is just talking about diseases or illnesses. But we'd love to hear how you use essential oils, and especially if it's pertinent to the topic we're talking about tonight. So if you give us, let's see, just about another 60 seconds, we'll go ahead and get started. So tell your friends. There's a little button where you can actually share the video and you can let people know that you're watching. And that's a great opportunity to invite other people to watch it with you. Maybe if you've shared some essential oils with them or have been chatting with them about the oils, this is an opportunity for you to say, hey, I'm watching this live 30-minute video. I'd love for you to watch it with me. Here's the link. And this is your chance to do that as we're just waiting to get started. Yeah, just probably about another 30 seconds or so. And we will dive right in. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing our video. Appreciate you. Okay, sorry about my giant finger. Hey, Sherry. Happy Easter to you. Thank you for joining us. All right, we're at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. So happy Easter, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed some time with your family, some time to reflect on the meaning of the holiday. Let me see if I can make my face actually show up. That would be good. Let me move this just a tiny bit. There we go. Now I don't have words on my face. That's much better. All right. Deanna Nichols here, doTERRA Blue Diamond. We are here for our weekly event. Essential oils are not magic beans. It's a little joke that I like to share every week because I talk to a lot of people and they have some really big expectations of essential oils sometimes, and they are amazing, especially if you're using the right brand. But you do still take personal responsibility for your wellness, and so there are some other things that you should do to stay healthy, like eating healthy, putting the right kinds of products on your skin and your hair, to clean your home, all of those things, clean air, clean water, very important, exercise. But essential oils can be a very, very important part of your daily wellness regimen. And a lot of times we think of essential oils as something that we use when we have a problem, but we don't have to have a problem to use essential oils. Tonight we're going to be focusing a little bit more on how we can help kids, especially that are dealing with some special needs. So I have a 3-year-old son, and he has some special needs, and he's a pretty exceptional kid. Like, he's got some really developed abilities in some areas, and then in other areas he struggles a little bit to fit in with neurotypical kids, and so we have to spend a little bit more time, and he's in different therapies and stuff to try to help him with those things. But very early on, we discovered some essential oils that really made a huge difference for us and for him. And so we use them every day. We don't wait until like something happens and he has a meltdown. We definitely use oils for those situations, but we use them every day as part of his wellness regimen, and as we do some other things nutritionally. And of course we do therapies, and I think therapy is just as much for parents as it is for kids, because I learned a lot of skills in his therapy that I have been able to use as a parent. It's very different parenting, or even being responsible for teaching, or being a caretaker for a child that has different ways that they see the world and different ways of processing information in their brain. And even if you're really great with kids and you've been around a lot of kids, or you've had a lot of kids, or whatever, you've been a teacher, when the first time you're faced with some of these differences, it can just be kind of frustrating, and it can really feel like you really are just out of your realm and out of your depth, and I can totally understand that feeling. And so that's why the essential oils are important, not just for the kids, but for the parents too. So what I'm going to focus on for the next few minutes is we're going to talk about a starter kit. Hey Cindy, hey CJ. We're going to talk about a starter kit called the Family Wellness Kit. And that one has a lot of stuff that would be really great, especially if you're dealing with a smaller child. But the oils we're going to talk about, they also come in regular dripping bottles. That means it drips right out. It's not diluted. So any oil that we talk about is still going to be beneficial if it's not a smaller child or not someone with sensitive skin. I just like this particular kit when you've got smaller kids. It makes it just really easy to use because they are already pre-diluted for you. They're in a roller. It makes it really easy to apply the oils. So we'll talk about that. And if you have the opportunity to introduce your child to essential oils when they're really young, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to accept this as part of their life. And as they're older, it's going to be a little bit more challenging, especially if they do have some special sensory needs and they struggle with sense or with touch or just accepting new ideas. You do have to be a little bit more creative. And so it's great if you can introduce these things when they are young, like my son. And he's been using oil since he was 10 minutes old, and that has made it very easy for us. But you don't need to just throw in the towel if you have an older child that's not quite ready for the oils yet. There's lots of ways to incorporate things into their life that's going to help them in their just in their everyday life to try to process things, to try to get along socially in situations that may make them feel kind of anxious, things like that. So let's go through the oils kind of like one by one that are in this kit, and we'll talk about how we use them in our family, and maybe you'll come away with some ideas that can help you. So the first oil is Cheer, and I really like this one because it's just a great everyday oil, and I like to use an oil with a yellow label. We talked a little bit last week about how you can oil by color, and that's a real thing. And since this is a yellow oil, it's really good to apply it in the upper digestive area. So we're talking about like below the breast area and above the belly button. Of course, you want to inhale the oils if you can. Again, some kids, especially if they're older and they haven't been used to oils, they can be a little averse to some of the smells. And that's okay because they're still going to get the benefits systemically when you put the oil on topically. So you do not have to inhale the oil. But if they're willing to do that, it's going to help affect their brain pretty quickly. So this would be a good twice-a-day regimen, like morning and evening, just to support like an uplifted mood. And again, it's going to help with digestive issues. I noticed that kids that have sensory needs and other special needs, they do really need to be more conscientious about their gut health. There's a lot of research out there that shows that gut health or a history of poor gut health on the mom side of the family genetically can predispose kids to have more things that affect their sensory affect their brain. And so we definitely, as moms, we don't want to feel like something's our fault. We obviously cannot control our genes. What we can control is we can control how those genes are expressed, and we can control, like, it's kind of like if you've had a history of heart disease in your family, which I do. Both of my grandfathers died fairly young with heart disease. My father's had a heart attack. So if I look at that, I can say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have heart disease. Or I can know that that is in my genetic history, and I can go and I can make sure that I exercise, that I eat healthy, and that I take really good care of my cardiovascular health. And if that's the case, there's every reason to believe that I do not have to manifest that genetic history that's in my body. And it's the same way with sensory stuff. And so it may come in our genes, but there's a lot of stuff that we can do. And so supporting gut health is really important. And this, believe it or not, even though it's called Cheer, and you might think it's for mood, which it is, because it's a yellow oil, it's really great at supporting that digestive system as well. And so I think that is a really good everyday oil. This next one has been a real game changer for us. It's called Peace. And again, inhaling it's great if you can. There's a lot of really calming oils in here. And how we do it is we actually apply it to the throat. And I started doing this when I realized that this is like a blue blend, which is really good for this section of the body. And a lot of kids, especially when they're younger, but even older kids with different special needs, can struggle with speech and communication. And even if they have a really great developed language skills, sometimes they struggle with saying what they want to say. and communicating in a way that is like socially acceptable by others who don't have the same way of processing information. And so either way, they do need extra support with communication, and this is a great communication oil. So what happened in our family is our son was about 2 years old, and he still really was only saying just a handful of words. And this blend came out, and I decided to go ahead and start using it and applying it to his throat. And within about 2 weeks of us using it, we started noticing a huge increase in his vocabulary. I'll never forget, we were walking inside our RV, and it was dark, and he walked inside and said, "I can't see." And that was really like one of the first sentences he'd ever really said. And from there, he went on to say like dinosaur and elephant and all these big words all of a sudden. And I really think that it had a lot to do with kind of just opening up that energy here for him. He knew the words. He's really smart. He's been able to spell really, really big words since he was not even 2 years old. He could spell them on like an electronic game, but not say words. So it's not like he didn't have the capacity for the speech. It was just something about getting the words from here to here. And I really think that this oil helped a lot. Not to mention the fact that there's a lot of calming oils in there. So it has become a huge favorite at our house for everybody, mom, dad, kid. And I tell you what, when you're dealing with something that's out of your normal realm, we're used to like dealing with situations a certain way. We're like, okay, get your shoes on, let's go out the door. When you've got a child with special needs, there's a lot more that goes into that. It's not like, hey, we're just going to like get our shoes on and walk out the door. It's like for 30 minutes before we're going to set a timer, and we're going to talk about how we're going to get, okay, when the timer goes off, we're going to get our shoes on, we're going to get in the car, then we're going to do this. And there's like this big story you have to tell to prepare them and get ready for the transition. It's just a lot more stress. And when you're the parents dealing with that, it's like there's just a lot more on you. It's like it's not that you don't appreciate and love your child. It's just that it takes a little bit more calm and peace about you to be able to communicate patiently in those situations. And so it's really important when you've got kids with special needs that mom and dad, that you support yourself too, because we want to be communicating to our kids like, we love you as you are. You're not a nuisance. You're not frustrating to me. And I'm going to be patient with you. And so using that oil has been really important. The next oil that is in this kit that's very, very important is the digestive blend. And again, I kind of already touched on how kids with special needs can have a tendency towards having poor gut health. And so we want to do everything we can to support their digestion. And so using this at least twice a day, morning and night, if they already are having some digestive stuff, then applying it before meals. A lot of kids also struggle. I'm sorry, my nose is really itchy. A lot of kids also really struggle with food sensitivities and textures with foods, and not wanting to try different foods. And some kids, like I've experienced where my kid, he could literally go days without eating. Parents used to tell me, oh, don't worry, they'll eat when they're hungry. Well, when it comes to kids with special needs and sensory issues, that is not necessarily the case. They could literally starve themselves because they're really particular about what they put in their mouth. They're able to, sometimes they can like ignore basic feelings like they're cold, they're hungry, because they get so focused, their brain is so focused on other things and so busy doing other things that they can forget. And so supporting their digestive system can also just help them to have those normal hunger feelings and be able to digest their food, especially if you have a kid that tends to like not eat all day and then just like cram everything in their tummy. There's some nights where my kid, like 30 minutes before bed, will eat all the food, and his belly will just be... So we want to make sure that we're using an oil like Digest Zen to help digest all that extra food that's in his tummy, because, you know, whenever he wants to eat, we let him eat, because we need to make sure that he's getting the food in his body. And so if he does it all at once, then we just want to support his digestive system. This next oil, frankincense, is amazing. Every human should be using this anyway, but especially if you have a child that's got any kind of special needs, using frankincense as part of their daily regimen is so, so important. It supports the brain and the nervous system, and that's everything when you have special needs. It's everything. You just need all the extra support that you can get. I wish I could explain it in a way that you can understand if you haven't dealt with this. A lot of you that are watching probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and others are probably like, I don't get it. People still don't get it. I have relatives and I have close friends and family that say things like, "Oh, you just need to spank your kid, and you just need to be more strict with discipline, and they'll grow out of it, and don't label people." And they just don't understand that their brain just works completely differently. There's nothing wrong with their brain; it's just wired differently, and they experience things differently. They literally can. Some kids can be very, very sensitive to sounds, textures of their clothing. There's so much, and so. An oil like this that supports the brain can just be really huge in helping them feel well and happy throughout the day. And so how you can use this is you can literally just roll it on the back of the neck, and you can also put it on the bottoms of the feet, wherever you can get it on. You know, if you've got somebody that's sensitive to being touched in certain areas, just get it on where you can. You can also get the regular bottle of frankincense and you can drip that into a diffuser. For the longest time, we didn't even have these rollers with our son, and so we would just drip the frankincense in our hand and rub it all over his head, and that's how we did it. And I think because we started doing that when he was 10 minutes old, it was easier for him to accept that. And so you may have to just be patient and find creative ways to do that if you've got a child that's more resistant to touch. Okay? To be honest with you, lavender's in this kit, and we almost never use this for emotional support. For any other kid, I would say most likely this is going to be calming. We have found from the beginning that this was the opposite effect, which makes perfect sense, right? Because their brain is so wired differently and just kind of functions differently. And so, of course, a calming oil is like putting this on him is just like, wah! And so we just don't use it that way. But what we do end up using lavender for a lot, because our kid has special needs, he really does not feel pain in the same way. So he'll be walking around with like this giant knot on his head or on his leg, and he never even said a word. He never cried. He never told us he got hurt. One day he just like stopped walking on his leg for a week, and we have no idea what he did. He never cried. He never said anything. So when we see those bumps and scrapes and things, this is what we use. And it's perfect because it's not going to sting. It's not going to burn. You can just roll it right on the area. Of course, we do frankincense for the head. There's another oil called geranium. We call it Frank and Jerry. We just kind of rub those on head bumps. My son likes to climb on things. He likes to jump off of really high things and then land on something. He likes to run into people and run into things because he's trying to... how do I explain this to a layperson? Basically, he's just trying to experience certain senses that is harder for him to experience, and he craves that. He craves like deep pressure touch on his body, and so he's going to get hurt more often, and he probably won't tell us every time, and so we want to be looking out for that. So it's good to have that oil on hand. This is such an important oil, Melaleuca. We think of it as a sick oil, and it's so great. I mean, if you've got kids that have clogged ears and you've got somebody that's got a cough or a sore throat or whatever, it's great to put it up the spine for the immune system. But how I would use this for a kid with special needs is you have to understand that they're, a lot of times, they're absorbing a lot more information than you realize they are. Their brain is like soaks up stuff so quickly, and they can actually, because of the fact they don't communicate in the same way and they don't maybe experience emotions in the same way, they can like really take on a lot of stuff and be carrying it around. And so I can remember as a child being very sensitive to things like the news. So my parents would just think I'm like over here playing a room away, and they're listening to stories about people being murdered. And I remember being a little kid, and my parents found me crying in a corner at school, and they asked me why, and I said because I thought Gaddafi was going to blow us up. I was like in 3rd grade, and they didn't even know that I was aware of this information. But as you can see, a lot of my son's special needs come from me, and I have struggled with a lot of this stuff myself. And so I can kind of relate to how you can really carry around a lot of heavy emotions. And this oil right here is really good for like energetic boundaries. It helps to kind of keep a nice barrier around you to protect you from a lot of negative stuff. And to be honest with you, like people make a lot of comments too. When you're different, they do make a lot of comments about it. I've had a lot of people say a lot of different things, and they don't mean to be insensitive. It's different. They don't know how to deal with it. So they're going to hear a lot of things, and they're going to hear things and observe things that you won't even notice. My kid has the hearing of like, I don't even know how to explain it to you. I mean, he can hear like a tiny, tiny little thing, and he's concerned if he hears a sound and he doesn't know what it is and he can't identify it, he gets agitated. So those kinds of reasons are a really good those kinds of things are a really good reason to keep this oil on hand. And I actually heard a really great tip at a doTERRA event I was at in Orlando, where you can actually, I'm going to see if I can move my hair a bit, where you can roll it down the neck. Gosh, my giant earring's getting in the way. Let me move it. So you can roll it down the neck and along and along the shoulder in like an L shape. Okay, so in a perfect world where all my jewelry and hair wasn't getting in the way, it would kind of look like you're drawing down and across the shoulder. And so that's one way you can use it, and you don't have to worry about the sensitivity of this oil because it's already mixed with coconut oil for you, like all of these touch oils. And so that would be a great one to use, especially if they are having a meltdown. A lot of people think when they see a child with special needs having a meltdown, they just think, oh gosh, you know, they need a spanking or they need a timeout. And what they really need is somebody to understand what they're trying to communicate. They have a need that you don't understand because it's not affecting you. So there could be a texture that's bothering them. There could be just an overload of sensory things that are hitting them all at once, especially if they're in a crowd of people and they're hearing all this extra noise. My child, when he was like 4 months old, he could crawl and find any electronic device, even if it wasn't even on. It's almost like he could hear it. He would hand me my cell phone before it would ring. I think that they just hear a lot more and their senses are just like taking all kinds of all the time. And can you imagine how tiring that can be? I mean, have you ever just felt like your brain was tired? That's how it is, like 24 hours a day. It's hard to shut that down. And so it's just really important for you to understand that when you see somebody, they're not coping with the situation. They just need a little bit of compassion and understanding. And sometimes just sit with them and let them know, listen, I don't understand what you need right now, but I'm here. And an oil like this can really help. Now, I'm going to deter from the kit for like a second because this is the perfect time to tell you about this oil that's not in this kit. That has been like a lifesaver for me lately. I don't know how we discovered this, but there's an oil called Hope. And it is not in the kit, but it is an amazing oil. It was designed for kids that have been rescued from sex trafficking. So if you can imagine like what kind of oils you would put for somebody who's been through trauma, who needs like oils for calming and peace and like all of that. So when I thought about the oils that were in this blend, I thought like this might be really good for my child. And the first time I ever personally used it, he was having the worst meltdown I've ever seen in my life. We were at a therapy appointment and the therapist was working with his speech, but she really didn't seem to have a whole lot of understanding about his other needs. And so she allowed him to play with a toy, which this might seem totally harmless for a regular child, right? But she let him play with a toy for the entire 30-minute session. And then suddenly at the end, with no warning, she wanted him to like just give it back to her and leave and go home. Well, he needs a lot of time to prepare for a transition like that. And so he had a massive meltdown. He ended up, I've never seen it. It lasted 13 minutes, which seems like about 3 hours when you're the mom. And of course, they're trying to move people through in 30-minute increments at these appointments, and it wasn't happening. And he got himself so upset. He got himself tangled in the window blinds with his legs. I don't even know how that happened. And here I was, like, I'm not known as the most calm person in the world, but I have learned a lot of skills because of my child and things that I've learned in his appointments. And so I went through all those things, but it was just the meltdown had just gone too far before I really started to kick in with my skills. And so I just remembered for some reason, I grabbed this oil and stuck it in my jacket pocket before I left. It had to be like a total God thing because it's not one that I usually carry around until now. And I pulled it out and I just rubbed it on his chest. There's oils in here like ylang ylang, bergamot, which is super, super calming and sedating. There's vanilla, which is calming, frankincense, which we know is good for the brain. So much good stuff in here. And so I rubbed that on his chest. I sang his favorite song, and that's what finally did it at the end. It allowed us to like move through that transition, get him to the car. And now we make this part of his daily regimen. We just do. And if we know that we're going to be in a different situation, most kids, like, that may not be a big deal. Like, we're going to take you somewhere new and do this new activity. A child with special needs, you really need to give them a lot of information and let them know, like, this is what's going to happen. This is what it's going to feel like and sound like and look like. And you have to kind of practice it and role play it. And then we add hope, because that just is going to help make things just go a lot more smoothly. And now my dog wants to come in. He has special needs too. It's called, I don't know, separation anxiety. Whenever I'm in here, he has to bust in. And I have myself locked in just in case my child was going to try to photobomb again. Let me see how much time I've got left. Oh, okay, we're doing pretty good. On Guard. So On Guard is one that we definitely want to use on everybody every day because we all need help with our immune system, and there's so much stuff in our environment that our immune system needs to fight against. But I would say especially when you've got special needs, there's so much about this oil that's just important for you. And here's why. It's called the Protective Blend. There's oils in here that make you feel safe and secure and grounded, oils like cinnamon and clove, and you just feel protected. And a lot of times kids that struggle with sensory needs, they're constantly in that like fight or flight where it's like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? What do I need to do? Is everything okay? And they're like going all the time trying to like scope out their environment, make sure it's safe, make sure it's okay. And so an oil like this can really help them feel grounded and safe and secure. And so especially if you've got a kid that feels this way, like when they go off to school away from you, or maybe even at night, this would be a good one to diffuse. You can get them a diffuser necklace. I have this really, like if you've got a teenager or something and they don't want to like walk around like putting oils on, they're worried about what everyone thinks, or they tell you this, they smell bad or whatever. I have this really awesome bracelet. It's really cute. It looks really like hip and cool, but these back rocks on here, these lava rocks, you can put any kind of oil on here, and you wear this bracelet and then nobody's going to even know. You can be sitting like this and you can just be getting those aromatic properties from the oils and nobody knows what you're doing. Okay. So that's just one way that you can get the oils in you at school or at work without, making a big spectacle of yourself if that's something you're worried about. But I would say On Guard should be part of the daily regimen. And then the last oil that's in here is peppermint. This one can actually be really calming for somebody who has sensory issues. You would think it would be the opposite, and it normally is with most people because this is like an energizing oil, but it can help the brain to really focus. And that's a real big issue because a lot of these kids are super, super gifted and they're solving problems all the time in their brain, multiple issues at the same time. They're noticing things you're not. There's just so much of their brain is constantly active. And this can help them to really focus on like one thing at a time. So this can be a really good one for school. It can be a really good one for work, whatever the situation is for the person. And even just for calming. It may seem like counterintuitive to you, like you would normally grab lavender, and I'm just telling you that is probably going to be a mistake. And so I find that peppermint works better in that situation. Now, there's a couple of things in here in this kit that are not oils. Then you may wonder like what this has to do with anything, but it's big. So the first one is PB Assist Junior. Probiotics are so important because we talked about how gut health is directly related to like brain and sensory health. And so keeping your gut and your stomach really, really healthy is super important. And especially if you've got a kid that doesn't want to swallow capsules or they're not old enough to swallow capsules, this is a really awesome powder. It tastes like a pixie stick. It tastes sweet. It's like I've never once met somebody who didn't like this, like an adult, a kid, anybody. And so if you do have somebody that's got like texture needs because it's a powder, you can even put it in something and let it go ahead and melt in with something that they are going to take. So my kid's really picky about what he'll put in his mouth. So this is a probiotic is something that we can add. We have like a formula that we make for him that contains most of his nutrition because he only has like maybe 7 foods that he will eat. And so we put a lot of stuff in there that he doesn't know he's getting. And so probiotics are one that's super, super important. You just have to try one of these and see what I'm talking about, but it's so important because it affects the brain too and the immune system. So I would say this is a given. This should be happening every day. The other thing is that there's a chewable vitamin, and again, you can crush this and you can like take a spoon and crush it and mix it in something if they're not going to eat it. But it has a pretty good flavor and the texture is not super weird. If they do have a texture or a flavor issue, crush it up, mix it in something else. Nutrition is so important, and there's this brain complex in here. There's ingredients in here that are specifically designed for the brain. It's super, super, super important for all kids, but even more for ones that have different special needs. Again, fish oil. Now I can promise you, I can promise you that your kid with special needs is not going to eat this on a spoon. This is disgusting in texture. It's disgusting in texture for me. So I'm telling you, it's going to be disgusting in texture for kids that are really picky about what kind of texture they're going to take. But the flavor is really, really good. So if you've got an older kid that'll eat a salad, this is your salad dressing. If you've got a kid like me who eats like just a few things and the only way to get liquid in them is to mix it all in one big giant smoothie, you can do this because it tastes like orange. So as long as an orange flavor is going to go with whatever you're making, it's going to work out. And our chief medical officer said that kids need as much of this as they will take. So it's not like you need to be like, oh gosh, I've given them too much, no more for today. As much as you can get in their body, you need to, because this is super, super, super important for the brain and the nervous system. And especially if they have really picky food issues and they're not eating a lot of, what am I trying to say, like a balanced nutrition. Let's say they were eating what everyone else is eating. That's still like way out of balance as far as the omegas. And so most people are not sitting around eating nice cold water fish all day long. I know I don't. I won't even look at fish. It's gross. And so for people like us, we have to even be more careful to make sure we're getting the omegas in our diet. You're going to see huge changes if you add these 3 things to your kid's life. I'm just telling you, you're going to see huge changes. The other thing that's in here that has nothing whatsoever to do with kids unless you have a kid that's 100 pounds or more is the Lifelong Vitality Pack. And if you wonder why that's in here, that's for us parents, because when you're taking care of a kid with special needs, I don't care what anybody says, it's double the work, maybe even more. And so we may not get as much sleep. We may really have to put in more effort to accomplish the same amount of stuff as a neurotypical child, like feeding your child, dressing your child. It's just all more work. You have to be like on all the time. And so we definitely want to make sure that we're getting proper nutrition and we're getting proper supplementation in our diet so that we don't fall apart. These kids are depending on us and we have to take care of ourselves first. And so those should be a part of every adult's daily regimen, but especially if you're a parent of a kid with special needs, you are going to need that in your life. Really fast, because we gotta go, I have to mention this product that's not in this kit. It has been a huge game changer for tons and tons of parents of kids with special needs. It's called DDR Prime. This oil has so much to do with healthy DNA and healthy cells and healthy brains and speech and sensory and nervous system. I could do like 30 minutes just on this. And so I would say if your kid has any kind of special needs, this should be going up their spine twice a day. It's so, so important. If you're worried about the fact that there's warm oils in here, you can mix with a little bit of coconut oil. You don't want to do a lot of coconut oil because you want it to get in their system. You don't want it just sitting like in the outer tissue on their spine. So if you can get away with not using the coconut oil, you can, or you can do the bottoms of the feet if you're worried about the skin sensitivity. But this needs to go on your kid twice a day. If you have an older child that can swallow a little tiny soft gel, and they will do it, it does come in a soft gel form. And so depending on their size, they could take 1 to 2 of those per day. But I could tell you all kinds of stories about how just a sample of this oil has made a huge difference for kids with all different kinds of special needs. And so I would say this is like a given. And if you can't add it to your kit when you first get started, it would definitely want to go on your first order. It's so, so important. Another oil that's not in the kit that we use every day is Balance. It's a grounding blend. It's just so important. And Petit Grain. This one is like similar to lavender, but we don't seem to have the like adverse type effects that lavender does. And so Petit Grain has been a really big one as part of our daily regimen in our house too. So those are oils that I just wanted to mention that are not in the kit. Real quickly, I also heard at this event in the doTERRA event I was just at, that Mito 2 Max is a really important thing for kids with special needs. I'm not exactly sure why. I haven't done enough study on it, but I've just heard, I heard that in a presentation. And again, it's a capsule, so it's something that you could open up and put in a smoothie, or if you've got somebody, an older child, that's willing to swallow capsules and able to swallow capsules, and they're like 100 pounds, then they could actually just take it as take it with their vitamins. And we know that this is really there's a lot of stuff in here that's good for the brain, it's good for the adrenals, and good for the cells. And so I'm not exactly sure how that all fits in, but that's just something I recently learned and I don't know a ton about yet. So I wanted to throw that out there. So if you're thinking like this is something that you're getting ready, that you're excited, wow, let me try that again. If you're thinking that this is something that you're ready to get into and you're ready to start seeing some results with your child and with yourself, then what you want to do is you want to check out the different enrollment kits. This is just one of them. This could be the perfect one for you, or you might want to look at some others. And so in the title for this video, I've included a link to the different enrollment kits. You can check out that link and look at all the different enrollment kits. That's what you want to do, is you want to get an enrollment kit. Here's why. Number one, you get a free membership to doTERRA, so all your products are 25% off retail, okay? Number two, you're going to be prepared with some core basics. A lot of times people are thinking about like one issue. They're like, oh, I just need peace. I just need peace oil. But you're not thinking about all the other stuff that can happen. And so when you have some basic core products in your home, you're going to use them if you get educated on them, and they're going to help you big time. So I would say you want to start with a kit. So not only is your membership free, you'll have more than like 1 or 2 oils in your home. And you also have the opportunity to be able to be plugged in to all of our free education. Whoever invited you to this video, whether they're part of this team or any other team in doTERRA, they're all going to have their own method of education and support for their team members. So that is a huge reason why joining doTERRA is such a big thing. It's better than just like buying a product somewhere off a shelf or off the internet, because it comes with people that have experience, like I have experience with this. There's people that have experience with just about everything that you could use oils for, and their experience is going to be huge. They're also going to provide you with education so you can learn about the oils that you purchase, and they're not just sitting on a shelf somewhere and you're wondering why the heck you bought them. The other thing is that you get to participate in this very amazing program we have called the Loyalty Rewards Program. When you purchase through that program, your future orders, you'll get 10 to 30% back in free products off everything you buy. Whatever you spend in shipping will be refunded in free product, free shipping rewards, which is like dollars. And you can earn 1 free product every month in our Product of the Month Club. Plus, there's products like the Lifelong Vitality Pack that you can end up getting at up to half off because you're purchasing through the rewards program. So those are all benefits, and there's so many more benefits of getting your kit and getting your own wholesale membership to doTERRA. So check with the person that invited you to watch this video. Ask them to help you get started. They may have some promos going on that I haven't even mentioned. They may want to give you a free book or a free app so you can learn how to use the oils. They may be giving away a free oil with a membership, so you want to check with them because they're going to hook you up, and they cared enough about you to invite you to this event. So as wonderful as I am, unless I'm the person that invited you or you're working with me, you want to go back to the person that actually invited you and have them help you set up your membership. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. If you have any other questions and I didn't get to them live, I promise I'll go back and read through and try to reply for you. If you're watching the replay, still ask your questions, still share the video. We try to leave these up for a long time, so if you know somebody that's got a kid with some of these challenges, then hopefully this oil and this video can be encouraging and educational for their family. So please, you can share the link even after the live event is over. We'll be back every weekday. We're here at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for an oil a day, a short video. And then every Sunday, we have a 30-minute live event called Oils Are Not Magic Beans. And it's a great opportunity for somebody who's thinking about getting started with oils. And so I hope that you will bring friends with you next time when you come to visit. So thank you for being here. Have an amazing night, and we'll see you next time.